So as we've been telling you, today is International Self-Care Day, a day to put yourself first and prioritize your own health and well-being.
Great to do right after National Tequila Day.
Yes, ma'am.
Joining us to talk about the importance of self-care is Olivia Verhulst. She is a licensed psychotherapist, mental health counselor, and adjunct professor at NYU. Hello, Olivia, and welcome to New York Living.
Thank you guys for having me today. It is such an honor to be here and celebrate International Self-Care Day with you both.
It's an honor to have your big brain with us.
Yes.
I think it's, and you and I have talked about this as moms, as caregivers. It's very hard and for self-care, and sometimes I feel guilty.
Yeah, it's easy to forget ourselves,
right?
Basically.
So I wonder, how do you define self-care, since you are the expert?
Yes. So needless to say, there are many definitions of self-care out there, so much so that the topic has become a bit diluted and watered down from what it actually is. I believe self-care is really the process of making decisions based upon our self-preservation and empowerment, and really organizing our life around this template.
Okay.
So give us some examples then of how we can exercise self-care.
So usually people are kind of operating off of what they think self-care is to be quick fixes, when in reality it's more of a process more than it is an event or a thing or an indulgence. And so with self-care, I think it really comes down to 4 different pillars in the way that I'm thinking about it with patients often. And that involves making decisions that nourish us and recharge us, whether that be spiritually, emotionally, physically. Also investing in our relationships, particularly right now in an epidemic of loneliness and a mental health crisis. And also listening to our mind and body's basic needs. Sometimes we're literally just not hydrating in our hustle culture that we're in. And then lastly, boundaries. When I'm thinking self-care, I'm thinking of boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I was making my breakfast and my lunch this morning, as I do every morning, and 2 years ago I made this decision that I was no longer going to make breakfast and lunch for everyone, because I would wake up an hour earlier than the hour I already wake up. I make everyone this elaborate lunch. I'd feed the dog. I'd do all this. And I announced, I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I am making myself lunch and breakfast, and you guys are going to be on your own. And this morning it occurred to me, I was like, I've been doing this for 2 years, and I have a healthy lunch, and no one has perished. No one has. The dog is okay. The kids have learned either to make their own lunch, and just now when you said making a decision about boundaries and making a decision that's not a facial, don't get me wrong, I love my facials.
I know, I'm with you.
But
it was something that I instinctively made because I was tired. And I was just like, and I'm running out of the door, and I'm not nourished. And these people have these elaborate leftover lunches, and I'm sitting here starving. And it was that tiny little thing that I made that just, it changed the trajectory. It sounds like something so small and trite, but for me, in my brain, it made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, it's amazing what can happen when you give yourself permission to be in a self-care process. And I love this quote. There's a quote out there that says, the quality of our lives are found in our daily routines, and you just described that so well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I should take your class.
Come on through.
But you're talking about how this has helped you. It's like survival, right? I mean, does it kind of teach us resilience then, like a self-care?
Absolutely. There's a big connection between self-care and resilience. If we're thinking about resilience, it's kind of that ability to bounce back to our normal baseline of functioning when faced with adversity. And if we're thinking about it, self-care is literally what fuels us with the resources to withstand adversity. So there's a big connection there. And it allows us to be in more of an active state versus a reactive state.
Right.
You know what I think a lot of moms do though? Like if they do something for self-care, like get a massage or go get a manicure or pedicure, they think, okay, in everybody else's mind, that is me doing something for myself, and that's enough. Now you have to go back to your mommy duties. How do you let go of that though? Because you said there's like that guilt factor that a lot of, and not just men, and not just women, but men too, that guilt that you feel when you do self-care.
It's something I hear about constantly, and ultimately it's almost counterintuitive to think about it that way, because self-care is what fuels us to show up more effectively and presently in our relationships and daily lives. So it's literally helping other people when we fill up our cup first, or we put on that oxygen mask first, to reference that metaphor. So it can have wonderful impacts in how we show up for others by fueling ourselves with self-care.
It sounds like we really do need to learn what self-care is.
Yep.
Because I think, to your point, Hazel, it's easy to do the one thing and then be like, okay, but now I'm going to go back to making
Now I'm
lunches.
supposed to be okay.
Right. Or now I'm supposed to be okay. So what are some things that we can do so that we can better define self-care and then not go back into those habits of feeling like I have to take care of everybody, or I have to, solve everyone's problem?
I think we really want to start adopting a mindset that self-care is a process and an ongoing maintenance of wellness and health more than it is a thing that we're resulting to after we perpetually burn ourselves out, for example. Again, it's part of our daily lives and routine, and it's going to come down to those things that nourish and refresh us, that are enjoyable for us. Boundaries and saying no is a biggie. If we're somebody who has a spiritual practice, where do we have that in our foundation? So we want to think a little bit more foundationally with self-care.
Sometimes, though, just doing those little things is not enough. But then when people talk about therapy, it's like, oh, it's taboo. How do you get over that? And when do you know that it's something that you need to turn to?
Well, so with therapy, that's a great example and a great form that self-care takes, because that's investing in the relationship to yourself and others. And if you ask 10 different therapists what therapy is, you'll get 10 different definitions, but there'll probably be some agreement on the idea that therapy is this non-judgmental, collaborative process where we are coming to better understand ourselves, to better understand how we're showing up in the relationships in our lives, and to challenge limiting belief systems and behaviors that might be holding us back in life a little bit. And so therapy is a wonderful place to have that ongoing maintenance of self-care.
I'm here for all of it.
Yeah, me too.
Every last one of it. Well, Olivia Verhulst, thank you so much for joining us.
It was wonderful.